Welcome to the deep dive. We take stacks of info, distill them down, and basically give you that shortcut to being well-informed. Today, we're really plunging into the, let's say, intricate world of payroll administration. We're focusing specifically on SAP SuccessFactors Employee Central Payroll, ECP for short.
That's right, yeah. And our sources, well, there are a whole series of these very detailed configuration guides and test scripts, too. You can think of them like the technical blueprints, you know. They really reveal how this massive system works behind the scenes to make sure paychecks actually land correctly every time.
Okay, so if you've ever wondered about that behind-the-scenes magic, you know, how your salary hits your account just right, or maybe how a huge global company manages to pay people across, I don't know, dozens of countries, then yeah, you're definitely in for a treat today. Our mission is really to unpack the critical bits, maybe some surprising details of ECP, give you those aha moments about a system that, well, it touches so many working lives. Okay, let's unpack this. So let's start right at the beginning. Setting up a payroll system, getting it running. When you're first configuring ECP for, say, local payroll, what are the absolute core building blocks? The fundamentals.
Right. Well, at its heart, ECP setup is meticulous. You're putting together various key elements. You're basically defining the DNA of how payroll calculations are going to operate. So we're talking about fundamental structures like schemas and rule directory.
Schemas and rule directories.
Yeah, think of schemas as the big blueprints. They dictate the exact sequence of calculations. And rule directories are like the detailed instructions within each step, how each earning, each deduction is processed.
Okay.
Precisely. And then there's the payroll control record. That's a really central piece.
Okay, that control record, it sounds pretty important. What exactly does it manage? What's its main job?
Oh, it's absolutely crucial. Yeah. It's key for defining the payroll area and the period. So basically, who gets paid and when. For instance, the guides mention examples like for monthly payroll in the USA, US for semi-monthly, UW for weekly.
Gotcha.
And you interact with it.
Yeah.
You select an activity like create control record.
Yeah.
And you change its status. You have to set it, for example, to release staff payroll to actually kick off a payroll run. It's like the gatekeeper.
Wow, okay. That's fascinating how granular that gets. Now, what about the money itself? You know, wages, benefits, deductions.
Yeah.
How does the system categorize and handle all that?
That's where wage types come in. They are absolutely core to how all earnings and deductions are categorized and processed.
Okay.
Imagine every single line item on your pay statement, base salary, overtime, health insurance premium, taxes.
Yeah.
Each one of those is a specific wage type. And the system defines how these different wage types behave, how they accumulate, like annually for tax reporting or just when they're paid out. And for benefits, say health savings plans, FSAs, there are specific calculation rules tied to those wage types. These rules make sure employees don't have deductions or maybe employer contributions that go over the preset limits, you know, the legal maximums. Our sources even detail specific codes like 09E for tracking accumulated employee contributions. It's very specific.
And what happens if, say, a deduction needs to be recovered? Maybe someone didn't have enough pay one period, or a payment is late.
Yeah, good question. The system has specific configurations for that. It's called priorities and arrears for deductions. So you can actually set the order deductions are taken. And if an employee's pay doesn't cover a deduction, the system tracks that shortfall, the arrears. It knows how to recover it in later pay periods, linking the balance to future deductions. It's automated. There's even a link indicator, like 10, mentioned for connecting arrears types.
Right.
And of course, tax configuration is huge. Payroll schemas handle all the withholding information, unemployment taxes, all of that. It's essential.
Okay, so the engine's configured. It sounds incredibly complex already. How does all that employee information, personal details, job roles, bank accounts, how did that actually get into ECP? Must be a massive data transfer.
It absolutely is. Yeah, ECP relies heavily on really robust data replication, usually from Employee Central, the main HR system. This is often done using what's called point-to-point integration, direct connection. Generally, yes. Secure and efficient. So essential employee info, basic personal data, that's info type 0006, job stuff 0008, bank details 00009, key dates 00041. All that gets mapped very carefully and replicated into these specific info types in ECP.
Okay, info types. Got it. Are there any, interesting quirks or challenges in that replication process? I imagine moving sensitive data isn't always smooth sailing.
Oh, definitely. What's fascinating is how the system handles edge cases to keep data accurate. For instance, the employee ID, the personnel number, or PERN-R, It can be created using an ID from Employee Central, maybe using an external number range if a certain switch is set, a
Yeah.
per NAR switch.
Okay.
Or consider the full transmission start date, the FTSD. This is really critical. Only employee records valid on or after this specific date get pulled from Employee Central.
Ah, so it filters out old, irrelevant data.
Exactly. It fundamentally impacts how historical data is handled.
Yeah.
You don't want garbage in, garbage out. And here's a real snag sometimes: field lengths. They can differ. An employee time object might have a code in EC that's, say, 128 characters long.
Right.
But the corresponding field in ECP might only allow 32. If it's longer, the replication just fails for that record.
Ouch. Yeah, that sounds like a detail that could cause major headaches.
It can. You need careful mapping.
So what about personnel changes? Like an employee moves to a different legal entity in the company, or something probably more common, they're hired, but then they're a no-show.
Yep. The system's designed for that.
Hmm.
If an employee changes legal entities, the process is clear. Terminate from the old, rehire into the new.
Yeah.
Formal steps. ECP can even generate sort of artificial termination actions if it detects a gap in employment records, just to keep things clean.
Mm.
And for no-shows, someone hired who never actually starts EC payroll gets an event reason from Employee Central. Based on that no-show reason, it automatically sets their system status to inactive.
Smart.
And it's also super critical if you have to manually change a hire date after the fact. You have to use a specific hire date change payroll task type. Otherwise, you risk messing up tax calculations and payroll records. Precision is key.
So it's not just the static master data, it's also dynamic stuff like time data,
Yeah.
absences, working hours, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Absence data gets replicated, usually to InfoTag 2001. And our sources even note specific country fields needed, like for Colombia, they track extra details for sickness records.
Interesting detail.
Planned working times go to InfoType 2003. The system can automatically calculate daily hours based on the standard weekly hours from EC divided by working days. And it also handles things like time account snapshots, that's InfoType 2010, absence quotas like vacation time in InfoType 2006, and even time account payouts in InfoType 0416.
Okay, so all this data is flowing in, the system's configured. How does the actual payroll run happen? And what about those, one-off payments? An employee needs something outside the regular cycle.
Right. The payroll run itself is a multi-step process, almost like a checklist. First, you typically simulate the payroll. This helps catch errors before the real run.
Makes sense.
Once it looks clean, the payroll area status needs to be released. That's the green light.
Yeah.
Then the system calls a country-specific payroll program. It crunches all the numbers based on the rules and data. If errors do happen in the live run, the system flags just those specific employees in their payroll status, InfoType 0003. This lets you make corrections just for them and run a payroll correction run without reprocessing everyone else. Much more efficient.
Okay. And for those special out-of-cycle payments, like a bonus or maybe a final check?
That's where off-cycle activities come in. These are specifically designed for payments outside the normal schedule. Reasons could be anything: year-end adjustment, bonus payment, severance, you name it.
Right.
The system lets you process these one-time payments. And it handles the follow-up too, like generating the remuneration statement, posting to accounting.
Mm-hmm.
Interestingly, the sources note something specific here, a quick action card, like a shortcut on the user interface for starting an off-cycle payment. It's currently only available for the bonus payment type. Suggests it's maybe still evolving for other types.
Huh, okay. Good to know.
And if you need to actually print physical checks, less common now, but still happens, there's a specific program for that, RFFO-USC, for International Payment Medium Processing.
And after payroll's done, everyone's paid. What are the crucial follow-up steps?
Post-payroll activities are just as critical as the run itself. A big one is creating and releasing the posting documents for financial accounting. This summarizes the payroll results for the general ledger. It's a vital step before finance can actually reconcile and transfer funds.
Right, closing the loop.
Exactly. And then there's third-party remittance, managing payments for taxes, benefits, maybe garnishments. The system helps manage scheduling and sending these payments accurately to vendors or government authorities.
Oh, okay, wow. That sounds like an immense amount to keep track of, to monitor and manage. Is there, like, a central hub, a control tower for overseeing all of this, something to ensure data quality and spot issues proactively?
That's a really important question. With so much data, constantly changing employee info, how do you maintain integrity? And that's precisely where the Payroll Control Center, or PCC, comes in. Think of it as the mission control for payroll. It's designed to automatically verify data quality as changes happen. It's proactive.
Okay, the PCC. What's unique about it? Does it just flag problems or does it actually help you fix them?
Oh, it's much more than just a flagger. It provides a whole suite of tools and specific roles for users. It uses these things called validation rules. These are built on standard logic, defining conditions that might indicate an issue.
Like what kind of issue?
Maybe an incorrect pay rate compared to the job structure, or a missing mandatory tax ID, or perhaps a huge variance in pay period over period, things like that. When a rule finds a potential issue, it generates a payroll alert. But here's the cool part. These alerts often come with a solution, usually a direct hyperlink. It takes the payroll admin exactly where they need to go in the system to investigate and fix the issue, maybe directly to that employee's profile page.
Ah, so it's not just problem found. It's problem found, click here to fix it.
Precisely. It guides the resolution. It's like a digital roadmap for troubleshooting specific employee issues.
That seems incredibly useful. So it spots problems, guides the fix. Does it help organize the whole end-to-end process too?
Absolutely. There's a user interface within the PCC called My Processes. It gives you a really transparent view of the entire payroll process, start to finish. Everything's categorized neatly. Active processes running now, upcoming processes, even upcoming off-cycle processes, and of course, completed processes. It's a full dashboard.
So everyone knows what's happening.
Right, and you can assign specific alerts to individual payroll admins or teams, builds accountability. You can even mark alerts as set to resolved if it turns out, it was a false alarm or it's been handled.
And what about the bigger picture, the overall health of payroll in the organization? Does it offer insights beyond just fixing individual errors?
Yes, it definitely does. The PCC integrates key performance indicators, KPIs, and analytics. This lets you monitor broader trends in the organization's payroll data, like changes in total salary payment month over month, shifts in staff numbers, maybe the volume of off-cycle payments being processed, strategic insights. It also has an audit trail application. This is huge for compliance. You can download detailed histories of processes run, alerts generated who resolve them, analytic snapshots, crucial for internal controls and external audits. And setting all this up, the processes, the validation policies, the activity types, that's done using a specific tool called the Configuration Workbench. Transaction code PYCCONFWB for those interested.
Okay, so it covers the process, the errors, the analytics, the audit trail. Very comprehensive. Now, shifting it slightly, it's not just about getting paid, right? Employees need to understand what they're being paid. How does ECP handle pay statements, making them accessible and clear?
Yeah, good point. The pay statement functionality in ECP is designed with flexibility and employee access in mind. Employees can get their pay statements directly from the ECP system, but they access it through various points in Employee Central, which is usually their main HR portal.
So multiple ways in.
Exactly. They might go to their employee profile page or use the SuccessFactors mobile app if they're on the go. There's often a View My Pay Statement quick action right on the homepage. And you can even ask Joule, SAP's natural language AI assistant, to pull it up. It's about making it easy for employees.
That AI integration is interesting.
It is. Though, remember that note about the off-cycle payment card? That detail about it currently only being for bonus payment types? That seems to apply here too for some views. It shows accessibility is still being refined.
Got it. And managing all the users of this system, payroll admins, employees viewing statements. How is access controlled? That's critical for sensitive financial data.
Absolutely crucial. Security and efficiency are paramount. ECP integrates with modern identity management solutions, specifically SAP's Identity Authentication Service, or IAS. It supports standards like SAML 2.0 for single sign-on, so users log in once, securely access what they need.
SSO is key.
Definitely. And identity provisioning services can automate creating users and synchronizing their roles and permissions keeps things consistent. For system-to-system communication like that replication we talked about, it uses secure methods like X.509 client certificates. There's even a feature called IP access restriction. Companies can define a specific list of allowed public IP addresses, so you can restrict web-based access only to trusted networks. Adds another layer of security.
All right, locking it down. Okay. Now, in a system this complex, things inevitably go wrong sometimes, right? Something breaks, data doesn't flow. How does ECP help administrators with that problem solving, the troubleshooting part?
Yeah, that's where, critical thinking meets good diagnostic tools. There's the data replication monitor we touched on briefly. Admins use that to check the status of employee data flowing into ECP. If a record fails, they can drill down right into the application log that's transaction SLG1. That log gives detailed error messages, technical clues to figure out why it failed.
So finding the root cause.
Exactly. And there's also something called the check tool This is more proactive. It runs checks to identify potential configuration issues or data inconsistencies before they cause major problems. It often provides suggested solutions, sometimes even a quick fix button, to automatically correct common known issues.
Ah, automated fixes. Nice.
Yeah, for certain types of problems, it's all about minimizing disruption.
So it seems focused on proactive problem solving, not just reactive firefighting after payroll fails. And how does SAP itself ensure the system stays current with changing regulations, security threats?
Well, the documentation itself is a clue. It highlights continuous updates. Our sources mention changes as recent as June 2025. It's a living, breathing system. SAP adds functionality, corrects issues, adapts to new legal requirements regularly. They also strongly advise customers. You really see this emphasized update your SAP software. Get the latest support packs, the latest versions, at least once a year, and critically implement SAP security notes promptly.
Right. Patching is essential.
Absolutely. It's not just about new features. It's fundamental for keeping the system robust, compliant, and secure against emerging threats.
Okay, we've covered a lot about the general system, but payroll is famously, notoriously country-specific. Tax laws, labor rules, they vary wildly. How does ECP cope with that incredible global diversity?
This is where it gets really fascinating, actually. The sheer breadth of country-specific configuration built into ECP. Our source materials, the guides, they detail unique field mappings, mandatory data fields, specific validation rules for dozens and dozens of countries.
Like which ones?
Oh, all over. Poland, Canada, Colombia, Mexico, New Zealand, the UK, lists across Europe, Americas, Asia Pacific. For example, remember we talked about Mexico, the municipality code entered in Employee Central. ECP knows to map that to a specific field, RCTVC, and it checks that code against a specific database table, T7MX63, just for Mexico.
Wow.
It even knows Mexico's postal code format is exactly 5 digits. That level of local detail is built in. It's how it ensures compliance with all those different local pacts and labor laws. It also supports something called extensibility, primarily through business add-ins or BDIs.
BDIs, what are those exactly?
Think of them like designated spots in the code where customers can insert their own custom logic, like plugins. So companies can extend or even modify the standard mapping logic for employee data or integrate their own custom objects without messing with the core SAP software.
Ah, so you can tailor it without breaking the standard system.
Exactly. It provides that flexibility needed to adapt to really specific local requirements or maybe unique business processes that aren't covered out of the box. Crucial for global companies.
Wow. Okay, that was quite the deep dive into SAP SuccessFactors, Employee Central Payroll. Seriously deep. From setting up those fundamental payroll areas and rules,
Right, the schemas, the control record.
to the complexities of replicating data globally, handling those tricky off-cycle payments.
And that whole payroll control center oversight piece.
Yeah, it's really clear this is a system built for, well, immense precision, but also adaptability.
Indeed. And understanding how all these intricate components connect, like those validation rules, catching errors before they happen, or the filters managing which historical data comes across, or even how a simple no-show event flows through automatically. Seeing that interconnection is really key to appreciating just how robust and, frankly, intelligent these modern global payroll systems are.
So what does this all mean for you, our listener? Well, whether you're maybe navigating your own company's payroll system or you're prepping for a meeting about HR tech, or maybe you're just, like us, insanely curious about what goes on behind the scenes, hopefully you've gained a new perspective, a better appreciation for that intricate dance of data that ultimately brings that paycheck safely to your account.
And, it does raise a really important question moving forward, doesn't it? As technology like AI continues to evolve so rapidly, how will these complex payroll systems like ECP balance that drive for increasing automation with the absolute critical need for human oversight, expert judgment, and that deep country-specific nuance, especially as workforces become even more global, more dynamic, more distributed than ever before?
That is definitely something to mull over.
Indeed. Until our next deep dive.